For the supplement to the session 3 that we did in Soon, interviewed by Anne Hess. Now this section started essentially as Anna went off to make some lunch. It was New Year's Day, and it was just something that we were going to just have a nice afternoon after this initial series of interviews. What Linn then said was very important in that it was traumatic, it was horrendous, and there was a lot of discussion as to whether we were to include this in the edit, and she has decided to stand firm, and we are now going to include this into this separate part, which is very serious, very traumatic. She does want to contact others. If you are a person who's had similar experiences, do contact her on her email. And that will conclude this part, this series of sessions of Linn, a Nordic contactee or experiencer at basis 94. Well, we'll take a short break there. During the conversation, you mentioned about your daughter being a super soldier. This is very important because we haven't heard too many super soldiers outside the UK and the United States. So would you be able to elaborate on that?
Well, she's told me a lot about her being a super soldier or going out into space and flying spaceships and...
Now what exactly do you or did she call a super soldier? So it's a very...
Well, I'm not sure. I have had a lot of dreams, and one time I had a very difficult time after my husband broke his leg. I'm not sure the...
Now you've also mentioned that your husband was your handler.
Well, I felt that way, and I had a dream about that, so I think he was, and he broke his leg in I think 6 or 7 years ago. And I went through a very stressful time, and I don't know what to call it, or I can only describe what happened, but I was extremely stressed because he didn't handle that very well, and suddenly my consciousness or my personality changed, and I became I felt like I became a reptile, a male, a warrior reptile. I can't. It felt like a part of me or another personality. I switched somehow, and I became this very tall warrior reptile, male reptile, and I had absolutely no what do you call it? I felt totally different than I feel now. I didn't care about anybody. I could kill anybody or torture people, and I was evil, 100% evil. And it lasted for about 8 seconds or something, and at the same time as I became this reptilian being, the landscape around me was grey and absolute
desolate.
There was no life, nothing green, nothing growing. It was dead, the whole area. And this happened twice. I just shifted my personality just shifted twice, and it was the same being, the same feelings, and I do not feel like that in my normal personality at all. And it made, when I came back, it scared me because I felt ashamed that I could be that evil, but he was pure evil, and nothing. He was very proud of his, and he was very loyal to the people that was above him. He was very, what do you call it, hierarchical.
Hierarchical.
Yes.
But who was above him? Any other types?
I couldn't see the people above him, but very powerful beings, and he was being very loyal to them, and he did his job, and he had no conscience, no. He didn't feel guilt if he killed somebody. He just did his job, and he actually he loved being evil. And this happened for 7 or 8 seconds each time.
Where did it happen?
It happened inside my home. I was standing next to my husband, and as I said, I was extremely stressed, and I just shifted like.
But you said your husband was a potentially your handler. A handler by who? What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, it's very difficult to talk about because it's very graphic and it's very painful. But when I turned 40, I had a dream that I do not believe it was a dream because it was so detailed, and I can still remember the feeling and the settings, and the dream was that I was in a kind of a bathroom room. It was it had white tiles all around, and several showers, maybe 5 or 6 showers. And the memory started with me. I was bent over and looking towards the wall, and I was screaming, and
if you can go into this.
My dad was behind me, and he was whipping me and raping me, and but it was horrible, and but at the same time I had this Kundalini experience. It was an extremely what you call sexual experience. It felt that my body and every cell in my body was filled with electricity, and it felt like I was going to explode or die because of this very, very intense and high energy. So it felt physically, it was a good feeling, a sexual feeling, but at the same time I felt guilty and ashamed, and it was so horrible that I left my body, and suddenly I was looking down at myself from the ceiling. And I could My husband was standing by the door looking at me when this happened, and he was fully clothed, and his expression on his face was that he wasn't upset or he didn't care, and he was looking at me, and my dad was instructing him about how to handle me, how to...
This is a vision or a dream?
It's a dream, and it was so terrible. It traumatized me for many years, and since then I've had other dreams about similar things, where I've been raped by my dad and I've left my body, and it has been in a kind of either a hospital or military base. I don't know.
So it hasn't necessarily happened in this 3D or in this reality?
I feel that it's in this 3D.
So,
I feel
but you can't have no conscious recollection that he raped you in this reality.
I don't know, but I feel that it's happened in a base or underground base or something.
Yeah, but what I don't understand, because if it had happened, it would have happened one time, not repeatedly. Or what? And if it happened one time, then that would stand out. And if it happened repeatedly in your dreams, and you know that's a symptom of something else, I think. That he is...
I'm not sure, because the experiences changed. I've had similar experiences, but it's over a period of time, but they're different experiences, and I have a very strong feeling that I'm a breeder, and that I've been programmed to have sex with different guys, because I've had hundreds and hundreds of dreams about me having sex without feeling lust. I just did what I had to do because I was told to.
Could be.
And many of those dreams I was in a military base, and my daughter has had similar experiences, but she doesn't want to talk about that. So
no. But I think, to be honest, I think that's a totally different. I wouldn't mix that up, because that's a different video. To start with that now, I don't think that's a good idea for you.
We were simply talking about her daughter as a super soldier. That was the context.
I think this is a very...
Also, nothing to bring into this Christmas conversation. I think that you might want to do that later.
Well, while you were away, we did about 5 minutes.
No, I think that because it's a totally different note, and if you want to do that later, I would have more security around me, spiritually speaking, while having a ceremony to secure and do things the correct way, and not just blub it out, because they can come around and bite you in the butt. So you have presented you as a very psychic woman now, and you have experiences, but I think it's very very important to think about you being a breeder and all this, but that's a different thing altogether. If you do have, I feel that you have to prepare yourself if you want to come out with this in a more secure way. Because then you're making yourself responsibility, you're putting yourself out there, and then you would be a lead. Maybe you're supposed to be that, a leading in this disclosure and all this, bringing this to the forefront. But I certainly hasn't got any expertise or anything that I could contribute and help you with there right now. I only know that when you do this, make yourself secure.
How do you do that?
How do you do that? You have praying. You have make sure you have a ceremony. You make sure that you ask your spirit guides and so on to protect you while you do this. Make sure ask before you do it. You know.
I did that before I came here, so.
You did, and they said it was okay to come out with it. Why didn't you say that then? What changes it?
Because this is a part of my story. It's very negative on one hand, and it's very positive also.
Yeah.
But I think that both are very important, and it's part of it's.
Well, then in that case,
I think that maybe I'm a light warrior, and somehow they try to stop me or hinder me in some way with all this negative stuff. But I think it's important to mention.
Okay.
So.
Well, then in that case, you mention it. Don't go down that road like another. Make that, do that for later, and go down properly and prepare properly, and because I know what you mean about the negative and the positive in a way, because this is to do with the lifting of the planet in the sense that we are balancing the feminine, and what you are describing is the extreme of the masculine that's going to the dark side. It's going to forms not caring about what is the real content essence of what they're doing. It's just it's rape in a sense, So and I think strong women like us, we have that as part of the job. But I think that will be, part of the 2019 coming up with more of that, and to understand what is it that you have to forgive. What is it that or is this so bad that
No, I haven't a problem with forgiving at all. So I do not hate.
That's up to you in your case, but that is part of the big question for very many women. That's part of the question for the divine feminine and divine masculine. How do we forgive? How do we sort this? I'm looking for the dinner. I'm looking at the dinner.
Well, you've got yourself suitably protected, so let's continue if you wish on this bit.
Well, that's the worst episode, but it affected me for many years. It still does, but I felt ashamed for many years afterwards because of this Kundalini experience, this pleasure of feel.
Okay, the Kundalini experience, which is vital in terms of the shattering of the personality, which is why we have MK Ultra trauma-based mind control. But Anna's mentioned, don't come up with this unless you protect it. But you've taken protection. Can you tell people who may want to do the same how to protect yourself? What steps should people take?
Well, what I do is I have this inner conversation with God, and I ask the angels and God to protect me. And I feel that that's helping. But I also feel that I'm protected from when I was a little child. I had when I was little, I lived on this farm, and I went to school 3 miles away from my home, and many times I had to walk all the way back home. There were buses waiting for me, for us, after school, but I don't know what happened, but I had missing time perhaps or something, but because I left the school with my little brother, and suddenly everybody was gone, also my little brother, and I was left there, and the buses were gone, and it was dark, but I could see myself. It's difficult to explain, but I could see myself from outside, and I could see that I had a kind of a light. I don't know what to call it. It was a light inside my body that protected me somehow, and I don't know if I answered your question, but I've always been very connected to the infinite God being, and I have a conversation.
Are you religious?
No, I'm not religious but I have a spiritual connection with the infinite God and the infinite wisdom. I don't know.
And that's what you feel is the key to protection?
I feel that this is the only way to be protected.
Well, we're sort of settling down to get something to eat. Any final little words in the last 30 seconds on this session too?
Well, I would like to help other people that experience the same things, because I didn't have anybody to talk to when I grew up, and I was very scared. So if I can help other people that are alone and scared, I would love to do that, because I think that's my mission, my purpose in life from now on, to connect with other people like me, and so that we can together lift the consciousness and the frequencies of this planet.
And how do you expect to lift the consciousness, and how do you feel that's done? To appear on TV, write books? How do you think that's going to happen?
I think that can happen in many ways, but becoming conscious is one way, and I know that I'm 51 now, and I remember how different things were 30 years ago. Today you can talk about things that you could not back then. It's much easier now to talk about these things, and people understand a lot more today. So I think that the frequencies are raising, and people understand a lot more things that they didn't understand before.
Do you feel that the Nordic countries are waking up, or have they always woken up?
Well, I think that the Norwegians are waking up, because, as I said, when I was a child and a teenager, I could not speak to anybody about these things. So some things happened. People didn't believe that animals had feelings, and many things have changed. Just the last 5 years, something is changing.
Wow.
So
Let's make it all happen. Thank you very much for now on session 2.
thank
From
you.
Norway, this is the Basis Project.